Hello everybody, today we're looking at Naturia, which got new support in the latest selection pack. If you don't know them already, they're plant/insects monsters that synchro summon into big beasts and dragons with powerful negation abilities. The latest trend with this deck is to run it with Runick along with a small ishizu engine, which I'm doing, but I've also seen it built with Vernasilf, and I'm sure there's plenty of more ways to build a deck out there. Since Runick eat the battle phase, it becomes a much slower game overall and games can go on for 6 or 7 turns sometimes. This isn't something I'm too used to, as I generally go for more bursty strategies trying to win the game on turn 2 or 3. Before we get into the meat of the video, I'd like to ask you to like and subscribe. These videos take a long time to make between research, building the deck, writing a script, recording and editing. And seeing those numbers go up really makes it all worth it, so please like and subscribe. With that out of the way, the new cards. First off, Naturia Mole Cricket. This little guy has 2 effects, and the first is a quick effect. The first effect works much like a rescue cat. We can tribute it to summon a Naturia from our deck, and if our opponent has the highest attack monster on the field, or if it's tied, we can summon 2 Naturias. The second effect allows us to bring it back after either our opponent special summons from the extra deck, or if we special summon a Naturia from the extra deck. This is our main starter and a 1-card combo into Naturia Beast and itself. I'll show this basic combo later. If our opponent then summons a monster that's larger than our beast, we can tribute the cricket to summon a Camellia and a sunflower, which represents 2 monster negates with destruction. Next of the new cards we have the aforementioned Naturia Camellia. Camellia has 3 effects and it's also a level 4 tuner. It's pretty stacked. If it's summoned, we can send a Naturia card to the graveyard. And if we would need to tribute a Naturia for cost, we can instead send 2 cards from the deck to the graveyard. Finally, if our opponent summons a monster, except during the damage step, we can summon a Naturia from the graveyard. The first effect gets our combo started. Our target is always Naturia Sacred Tree. It allows us to search a Naturia when sent. We can trigger this with Mole Cricket summoning Camellia too. The second effect is really nice for the combo I mentioned earlier. Sunflower needs to tribute 2 Naturias for cost, and with Camellia on the board we can just send 2 cards from the deck instead. Mole Cricket needs to tribute itself, and there is some funky stuff you can do with Camellia and itself. And the last effect is also amazing, allowing us to summon back a spent Mole Cricket or even a destroyed Naturia Beast. Overall, a very good card. Last of the new cards is Naturia Blessing. It's a quick play spell card and has 3 effects, but you can only use 1 at a time. First, it allows us to special summon a Naturia from either hand or graveyard. The second effect works like a polymerization, but instead of fusion summoning, it's synchro summoning. And the final effect is essentially just poly. This card is bonkers. Not only is it a reborn from both hand or graveyard, it also allows synchro summoning on our opponent's turn and is searchable in the deck of Sacred Tree. In this deck I don't make use of the fusion summoning, but it isn't too shabby either. It could allow you to run X-Stereo along with Barkion and Beast if you'd like. Then we have Naturia Sacred Tree. As I said earlier, when it's sent to the graveyard, it allows us to add a Naturia from deck to hand. Notably, this isn't only when it's sent from deck, it does trigger if we discard it with, say, Hugin. This is the main search power in the deck outside of the Runick engine, and its second and third effect is pretty cool. It's technically 2 effects, but it's really just like 2 opposites of the same effect. One lets us tribute an earth insect to summon a level 4 or lower earth plant from our deck. The other is the exact same, but tributing an earth plant for an earth insect. The first effect is vital for our combo, as you'll see later, and the second and third effect are also really nice, allowing us to get whatever we need from the deck, or avoid targeted negates or destruction like Imperm or Baron. Finally, the last Naturia card in the main deck is Bamboo Shoot. If we tribute a Naturia for its summon, our opponent can't activate spell or trap cards. Mostly just run this guy for fun. Against some decks it's just an instant win. Pendulums, for example, just crumble if we stick a bamboo shoot. Keep in mind, this does not negate spells that are already active, like field spells. Then we have the Runicks. Most of you guys should be familiar with these, so I'll cover them quickly. I also have a video on them. The spells all have 2 effects except the field spell, which is different from the rest. The first varies between them and the second one is always the same. They also all skip the next battle phase after activation, except the field spell. The second effect special summons a Runick monster from the extra deck to the extra monster zone, very useful for either the monster's effect or as synchro material. Let's go over the basic effects of the Runick card. Flashing Fire pops special summon monsters, Destruction pops back row, Freezing Curses negates, Slumber protects against battle or card effect destruction, Smiting Storm banishes cards from the top of our opponent's deck, and Dispelling discards a card from our opponent's hand if they add a card to hand. The last 2, Dispelling and Smiting Storm, are basically just used for their second effect or to trigger the field spell. Runick Fountain. It has 2 effects. The first allows the use of runic spells from our hand even on our opponent's turn, and the second effect lets us shuffle back our spent runic spells to draw cards equal to the number of spells shuffled. This is our main draw engine. We can draw so many cards off a Runick Fountain in a game, it's crazy. Then we have the Ishizu cards. Most people should know these as well. It's Medora and Keldo. I run 2 of these as there really isn't room for more. And they both have 2 effects which are very similar to each other. The first allows them to discard an Earth Fairy to special summon itself. Then, depending on if it's Keldo or Medora, we can add cards that I don't run in my deck. It's Gravekeeper's Trap and Exchange of the Spirit, and I haven't found myself opening 2 of the monsters too often, meaning their first effect is kind of unlikely to activate, meaning the traps would be way too bricky. The second ability is really nice in this deck, especially since it's a little bit slower of a deck running Runick. It allows us to shuffle back 3 cards from the graveyard to the deck. It's great against tiers, great against any deck that targets stuff in the graveyard. On top of that, we can also use the effect on our own graveyard to shuffle back our spent sacred trees and blessings or monsters or whatever else we want to get back in the deck. Then the recently limited Foolish Burial Goods. This allows us to send a sacred tree and combo from there. It's basically a 4th copy of CAMELLIA. Finally, Maxi and Called by the Great. I think everyone knows this. Then in the extra deck we have Hugin, the Runick Wings, allows us to search Runick Fountain by discarding a card. Can also protect our cards by banishing itself. It's super easy to summon, any Runick spell does it, which means it's super easy synchro material. Then we have Jerry of the Runick Fangs. Adds back Fountain if it's milled or destroyed. If Fountain is in our graveyard, we can add it back. And if the Jerry is destroyed by battle, we can destroy a card on the field. And it's level 4, super easy synchro material. Naturia Beast is a non-once per turn spell negate at the cost of sending 2 cards from our deck to the graveyard. It's absolutely crazy and is enough to win games on its own sometimes. Naturia Barkion is a non-once per turn trap negate at the cost of banishing 2 cards from the graveyard. Traps aren't as common as spells, but still, with both Beast and Barkion on board, our opponent basically can't use half their deck. Stardust Charge Warrior lets us draw a card when summoned. It's used to synchro climb into level 10s using CAMELLIA. Coral Dragon is basically the same thing as Charge Warrior, but it's a tuner, so we can use Jerry to climb into 10s, or the Medora or ishizu cards. It can also destroy a card on the field at the cost of discarding a card, which can be nice if we have a sacred tree stuck in hand. We can discard it with Coral Dragon. Then Draco Berserker of the Tenyi. This can really be any level 8 synchro, whatever you feel like is the best. It can once per turn banish a monster when it activates its effect, and if it destroys an effect monster in battle, it can attack again and gains the attack of the destroyed monster. Burrow on the Floor. Omni negate, once per turn pop, best synchro in the game, enough said. Changing, I haven't really had the chance to play around with this card as it was the last card I crafted for the deck. He grows bigger if stuff gets banished, he can protect himself by banishing a card from the graveyard, and if a card is banished while he's on the field, we can banish a card from both our opponent's graveyard and field. I like him a lot in the decks that run him, it's nice disruption and protection. Abyss Dweller, essential in the current Tearlament meta, prevents cards in our opponent's graveyard from activating. Baguska, it forces all monsters to defense position and then negates them. Sometimes we need more time to set up or we have a bad hand and Baguska can help. Dugaris has a few effects, but generally I only use the first effect to draw 2, helps us unbrick sometimes. And then finally, Donner Dagger for Hire. It can tribute itself to pop a monster on the field which can out something scary in a pinch. Now there's a bunch of different ways to build out the extra deck, this is just what I like, so feel free to leave a comment with what monsters you like to run in your extra deck. And before we begin with the combos, I'd like to shout out the Naturia channel on the Master Duel Discord. I was linked an amazing spreadsheet with a ton of combo lines for this deck by a user named Neptune, and if you want to learn more about this deck or really any deck in general, I can't recommend the Discord enough. I just wanted to give credit where credit is due. Let's get into the combo. Alright, so this is gonna be the basic one card combo for Naturia. We're gonna start with Mole Cricket, activating Mole Cricket, and we're gonna special summon the Camellia. Camellia is going to activate. We are going to send the Sacred Tree to the graveyard, which will self-activate, allowing us to grab a Naturia Blessing. Can then activate the Blessing, summon back the Mole Cricket, go into Naturia Beast, which is infinite spell negates, quite nice. That will trigger Mole Cricket to summon itself back, and we can pass the turn. Very basic, just sets up Naturia Beast and Mole Cricket. As I said earlier, if they establish a bigger monster in our Naturia Beast, we can tribute it and summon 2 monsters. If they don't, we can only summon 1. If we can summon 2, we go for Camellia and Sunflower. Otherwise, we just go for Camellia and send another Sacred Tree, allowing us to add more stuff. And this is the basic Naturia combo. We can add maybe Bamboo Shoot, we have Blessing in hand, we can summon that next turn to shut down this back row right here. But yeah, that is the basic combo, it's pretty simple, so I'll see you guys in the way more complicated full combo. So here's the full combo for Naturias. I'm gonna start with one of our Runick spells, doesn't really matter which one, probably use Runick Smiting if I was in an actual game. We will summon Hugin, and with Hugin's effect we will discard Sacred Tree and add Runick Fountain. With Sacred Tree we're gonna add Blessing. Then we're gonna normal summon Mole, Mole effect, special summon Camellia. We're gonna dump Tree again, it's not a once per turn, so that's really nice, we can loop it. We're gonna add another Blessing. Then we're gonna synchro into Coral Dragon. And we're gonna activate the Runick Fountain. Activate Smiting Storm. Summon out a Jerry. Activate Fountain. Shuffle back our 2 Runicks, draw 2. Pot of Greed, very nice. More Runick, more power. Can make a level 10 here, gonna make Barone, and that's gonna draw one off of Coral Dragon's effect. Oh, sunflower. Blessing. Summon CAMELLIA. Blessing. Summon mole cricket. Go into a Naturia beast. And that is of course going to trigger our mole cricket, which is going to bring itself back to the field, and our board is starting to look really nice. Could use the Runick tip to search out something if we wanted to. Could also just save it to be able to loop more of a Runick fountain next turn. We have Maxi, we have Barone with a pop, infinite spell negates in Naturia beast, and potentially 2 monster negates in Naturia mole cricket. This is a really solid end board, though the cards that are needed are quite specific. We do need 2 Runicks, a Sacred Tree and a Mole Cricket, or 2 Runicks and 2 Sacred Trees. So it's kind of specific in what we do and how we get there, but it's a very nice end board. Everything that I've shown right now is in the spreadsheet, so make sure you check that out. It has all the information you need for all the combos. But with that, I'm gonna wrap up this combo guide and this video. I'll see you guys later. Bye.